Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. In this extra video, I'm here with Bill Flowers. How you doing, Bill?
Doing good, Stephen. How are you, man?
Pretty good. We made it through a majorly successful football season. The team went 10-2. They're going potentially to either a New Year's Six Bowl, or the floor absolutely is the Citrus Bowl, which apparently pays like $9 million per team to go to that bowl game. So what is your opinion of this season, and what do you think the goal is moving into the bowl week?
Well, I think moving into the bowl week, it's a huge opportunity for the underclassmen. I mean, I would say, yeah, you want to win a bowl game. That's great. But if you're really looking at this from a coaching standpoint, you're not in the playoffs. You're thinking about this from a strategic standpoint of, hey, let's get our younger players involved. Let's see what we get. This is one of the reasons why you won a bowl game, because it's like another spring practice. And so I would say that our quarterbacks, making sure that you're getting them really involved, knowing what you've got. That's the big thing that you always hear from coaching staffs, is about the importance of bowl season and utilizing your younger players and getting ready for the bowl game. Especially in today's day, where you're seeing so many players opt out of bowl games because of their risk of injury, because they know that there's nothing to play for. I mean, yes, you're playing a bowl game, but this is a time when you see these young kids, it's like a vacation, and you have practice, and then the bowl game is sort of the open your Christmas present. So that's the big thing that I would really focus on, is what I think they're focusing on, is getting the younger players ready to go.
Now, I have a thought on this one. Like, if Ole Miss wins their bowl game, and it doesn't matter which bowl they go to before anybody asks that question, and we're going to talk about that in a minute.
No, it doesn't.
But as long as Ole Miss wins their bowl game, because I do think they need to win it, because this, in my opinion now, bowl games have become the first game of the next season, as opposed to the reward for the end of the season, because of all the opt-outs and things like that. Narratives and things are going to be put out before the season starts. And if Ole Miss wins their bowl game, they're looking at probably being 6th or 7th or 8th going into next season. If they lose their bowl game, they're going to be around 15th to 17th, in my opinion. And it's the same team either way going through there, but I do think it is a perspective type thing that Ole Miss needs to win their bowl game.
Well, sure, you want to win your bowl game 100%. You want to see that. But if you had to put a lie detector test on a coach and say, what's more important, getting as much reps as you possibly can for these young players, getting the most out of it, or winning the bowl game when you don't know who's all going to be playing in that bowl game, because people are opting out. I think you would probably see more. There's more to it for playing with those extra snaps for those young guys, utilizing it the most. But winning it is a real thing you want to do. So I agree with you. And those are two great opportunities to get an opportunity to be up in a lower ranking position for the following year, and to get your younger players, especially somebody like Howard.
Yes. And we're a situation there's 4 potential bowl games that could take Ole Miss right now. There's if you're watching this, there's 4 games that Ole Miss fans need to pay attention to. Now, not all of them are likely, but there are all possibility. And they are the Peach Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, and the Citrus Bowl. The Citrus Bowl is the floor and is the favorite probably at the moment. But Bill, which bowl game and potentially matchup, take into fact that the Citrus Bowl is probably a matchup with Iowa, which the contrasting styles between Lane Kiffin and Iowa would be kind of fun to watch. But the potential matchups that can happen, what would you like to see in the bowl game?
Well, I would think that the Cotton Bowl is gonna lobby for Ole Miss because they've got a good history there of showing up, bringing a lot of fans. You have a huge fan base of Ole Miss in Texas, so I would think that would probably be the site that lobbies for a team would probably be the Cotton Bowl lobbying for Ole Miss most likely, but maybe not. But if I had to see a team that I wanted us to play against, I mean, I think the Iowa is a cool matchup because you would never expect to see Ole Miss play Iowa. I think that's neat. I think that's recruiting for maybe some of the Big 10, Big 12 schools out there who don't see Ole Miss as much you like. So I think that would be an interesting matchup. But I would like to see. I don't know. I mean, I just think a good matchup. I don't think there's any.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the oddest team to see would be a Big 10, a Big 12 school.
Yeah, one thing that would be interesting that I'd like to see, and I'd like to see Ole Miss play Texas. And I know I
Yeah,
said earlier win the bowl game, but that's a matchup. I think between
yeah.
Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin and Arch Manning and all of that, there's so many storylines that's going to have all the eyeballs
I
if
don't
that
think.
game exists.
I think Texas is going to be potentially in the playoff, and if they're
Yeah,
not in
me
the
too.
playoff, then
They're
I
one of
think
the best 4 teams in the country.
yeah, I think Ole Miss would be lucky to be in a bowl game outside the playoff with Texas. That means somebody lobbied really hard
Mm.
for them. Uh, and if you're playing Texas, that is that's going to change a little bit of the mentality.
Mm.
That's kind of the asterisk because now you're playing like a big bowl game, but you've got a lot of recruits that you're going after because you're playing an in-season team. When you're playing Iowa, it's sort of like we're playing Iowa. Who really cares? It's fun. It's a matchup that you never would think would be there. It's not a huge recruiting pool, but now you play Texas. That's a huge recruiting pool. It's a matchup that's going to be, that you're going to see regularly on a regular basis from an SEC standpoint. So yeah, that would be cool, and I think that would be great. Just like playing Oklahoma, you'd like to play them, you'd like to see them. That makes things a little more interesting because you'll be seeing them a lot more, and you're recruiting against the same players.
Yeah, and what was the Cotton Bowl like whenever you went?
It was great. It was fantastic. It was a great experience, great place to be hosted by. We got to play in the old Cotton Bowl, which I think is a really neat experience. The history. My dad played there. Just the great history. Now, obviously, you're getting to play in Jerry's Dome. It's that is essentially a New Year's Day venue. It's going to be hosting the national championship at times, playoff places. I mean, it's just that's going to be that's a fantastic place to play. But Dallas, as everybody knows, it's kind of rolling the dice. You don't know what kind of weather you're going to get, so you might roll up in Dallas with 65-degree weather, and it's like you're playing in a New Year's Day national championship environment where they always want to make it so where everybody wants to go somewhere, inviting and good weather. or you get a ice storm and you're just like, oh my gosh, this place is awful. So that's what you get in Dallas in January. But they host well. It's a great place. I mean, it is if not the best bowl place to play and be hosted by. I don't know, it's the top four for sure.
Whenever I think of like my biggest bowl memories throughout all my life, and it's not necessarily Ole Miss related or anything like that, but one of the first bowl memories that pops up was the game between Texas and Miami in the Cotton Bowl in the 90s. That basically the NCAA had to make all the celebration rules against Miami. After that game, they had like 24 penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct and had like 270 yards worth of penalties that day.
Miami unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, I know.
No,
Randall Hill, that was the 6-shooters.
Yeah,
that game.
Who would have thought? Especially in the early '90s.
Yeah. That game always, it always remembers. It comes into my mind a little bit. I don't have any Citrus Bowl memories because it's been Ole Miss's first trip, and other than like Steve Spurrier said, you can't spell citrus without UT. That's probably my Citrus Bowl thing at the moment. But I'm looking at it, getting excited. You have the transfer portal and all that. This is going to be a fun month for Ole Miss fans.
I think the whole transfer portal and everybody that's going to be in it, it's going to be interesting to see. Can someone transfer and play in a bowl game?
No.
Okay, so it's open season for transfer portals. That makes it interesting. But yeah, the bowl games now can again, they really don't matter. They don't have the, because you just don't know who's going to play in it or not. Like, do you think really Caleb Williams is going to play in his bowl game? No. Most likely he's not. So
I'm honestly surprised he played against UCLA.
Yeah, so there's so much of that going on, and I understand it. I get it. These kids go out the night before or 2 nights before, and dude, if you had a camera on these kids, you'd be like, really? I mean, I know UAB went down to the Bahama Bowl, and the kids were puking their brains out the morning of the game, and they got beat. But you know what? They're in the Bahamas. This was a vacation, and so you get so much of that in these bowl games, and so that's why, is this team really gonna show up? And so that's why bowl games are just fun. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I think if Ole Miss ends up in the Citrus Bowl, you're going to have a team that's pissed off, and because they honestly do deserve New Year's Six, and it's absolutely crazy that they're not going to get to go. But can you imagine a 10-2 SEC team not making a New Year's Six bowl game? I don't know if that's ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to believe that 10-2 team doesn't make that, but it could. I mean, when you got 4 undefeated teams, and how many of those teams are have one loss as well? So there's a good possibility that you won't make a New Year's Day because of that situation.
Yeah, should be absolutely nuts. Anyway, what's your final thoughts on this football season?
I think that if you would have told the fans that they could go 10-2, I think everybody would be absolutely elated. I will say this, that the people that I communicate with, the people that their text messages, threads, whatever, I think that the future of 10-2 is something that you don't want to see. You want to see an SEC championship. Like that's what's to be expected, and that's huge. And I think for the fan base to say 10-2 is great, but let's win an SEC championship. That's what we want, and that's what you want to see. That's how your program should look like. I will say this, moving forward for next year, can Jaxson Dart be the player that he is this year to next year? If it is, then they won't win an SEC championship. And people can say what they want to say, but the Egg Bowl performance was not great. And
he's hurt. He's legitimately hurt.
Yeah, and I'm just telling you, I figured this out. Okay. Why did Kiffin go out and get Sanders? He had two things in mind on this. One, if Dart doesn't play like he needs to, I have Sanders to come in and replace him. Two, I want to keep him away from Auburn and any other team. I just want to keep him. I do not want him going anywhere. I do not care if he doesn't play, but I don't want him playing for another SEC team. And that's exactly what he did this year. There were times where he should have put Sanders in, and he didn't. Maybe even for the health of Dart, I don't know. But I will say that Dart had moments of brilliance, but if you're going to win an SEC championship, your quarterback has to be very consistent. And is that fair? No, it's not. But you know what? This is the SEC. This is a team that's going to have the opportunity to have that with the talent they've got, and they're going to have more consistency at the quarterback position. And Dart did a great job this year, but this is a pure 100% quarterback driven league with a position where you're going to have to utilize the field and take what the defense gives you and be more consistent at it, because that's my take on it. And some people might be like, what are you talking about? I think you'd be surprised that there's a lot more people out there that have that same opinion.
Well, and I think it also needs, just to be fair on this one, if Jaxson Dart makes the jump from year 2 to year 3 that he made from year 1 to year 2, this isn't going to be a problem.
No, I will say this. What concerns me is there are things that he did in year 1 that he didn't fix in year 2. And those are blatant, like the LSU game, he fixed it and got that taken care of, but he didn't go back to being consistent at throwing in the middle of the field and taking what the defense gave him. These are things that you have to do. Look at I saw the video clip that you posted about, hey, with me saying I would love to see us do a play action fake with Jaxson Dart. And you know what? They didn't give him any other reads other than that one read, which was a tight end. Mm-hmm. They made it so stupid simple for him to throw over the middle of the field, and he did it. That's what's going to have to happen. I mean, in order for us to have a championship season, that's what's going to have to happen for next year. I think they played amazing. I think our defense did exactly what they needed to do. If our defense can improve from what they did this year to next year, you have consistency at the quarterback position of hitting the middle of the field, utilizing what the defense gives you with a talent that we've got. I think, they are in contentions of playing for a SEC championship and getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, honestly,
this was not the conversation last year. That was not the conversation.
No, not even a little bit. But that's what we want. That's what we've been trying to build. And people need to realize that criticism is not complaining. I think some people don't know that they're like the same type of people that don't want to be coached necessarily. Whenever you have that, they view it as criticism and as opposed to coaching, because there are some certain things we're not where we want to be. We have to get better, and part of that is just people noticing what's going on.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
So Anyway, Bill, thank you so much for this football season. I'll hit you up after the bowl game to get ready for the off season, but thank you so much for everything this year. And we will see you after the bowl game.
All right. Hotty toddy.
Howdy toddy. Thanks for making you too. Merry Christmas, Bill. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bill Flowers joining us like he always does during football season. Great work, man. Thank you very much. And we'll see you after the bowl game, buddy.
Hotty toddy.